Hi, it's Allie, and I hope everyone's doing well and getting more acquainted with our course Canvas page. This is just a quick week 2 check-in. I just want to make sure everybody knows where all the course materials are, to remind everybody to spend ample time looking at the two main assignments for the semester, and of course, that's the oral history assignment, which is due around the midterm, and then the final research paper, which is actually 4 parts. And the first one, the proposal will be due week 4, sources week 6. The draft of the paper will be due week 10, and then the final paper itself is due at the end of the semester in week 14. So make sure that you're acquainted with those. And in addition to that, all assignments that were assigned for week 1 are open through this week. So if you haven't gotten to that yet, due to the college's add drop period, I do keep those week 1 assignments open for that extra week. So make sure to get to those. And there's a reflection essay again here for week 2. And there was a intro essay as well for week 1. So if that's a little bit too much writing that you don't want to do, there are options in this class. You can do audio or moving image files for either of those assignments. So keep that in mind. And this week we're going to look at the early history of television and into the 1950s. And it's going to be kind of odd because it'll be like 1939. We will study that's the public debut of television in this country at the New York City World's Fair in 1939 is where TV makes its debut in America. And that's the date that's given. And then we're going to jump pretty quick to the 1950s. And the reason for that is, of course, World War II. So there's going to be a lot of technological advances that happened during the war years. And those things like radar, etc., actually impact how television is broadcast. But television doesn't really take off as a medium in this country with the general public until the 1950s, and that's why. So we have a short time period with just 15 weeks. So we're going to look at that public debut of television in 1939, and then we're going to spend a little bit of time here this week. And next, we're going to be looking at some website research, and I'm going to have you pick one of 2 websites. One will explore race and one will explore gender during this time period. So what ends up happening is that in World War II, when the men went off to fight in the war, women were recruited to do masculine jobs such as at factories and stuff, as well as more traditional jobs that had been available to females. And when the men came back from fighting, these women were asked to give up their spots, to give their jobs back to the men, and to leave the public sphere, which they'd been working in, and some of them had really been enjoying, and to go back to being mothers and wives in the domestic sphere. And we won't really see this blow up on our small screens until the 60s and the 1970s when the feminist movement emerges. But with historical perspective, we're able to kind of look back at this period of the 1950s television, and we can see where kind of like sparks this the simmering tensions of these issues start to emerge. And this week, when we look at the website research, we're going to focus on the research itself. And then next week, we're going to look at some programs and take that back to television even stronger. So the other thing that is happening besides gender is, of course, race. And so the same kind of simmering tensions are brewing here in America. And what happens is during World War II, when black soldiers went off to fight and they weren't treated with the same level of racism and hostility that they had faced in their own home country, who they were fighting for right now in this war, when they went home, they wanted change. They expected it. They had just fought for this country and they deserved to be treated better, and they demanded it. And we start seeing this a little bit earlier than feminism by 1954 with Brown versus Board of Education, where desegregation starts to become like a legally mandated thing. We start seeing that on our small screens in the news and in stuff like that. And we're gonna look at those two issues with these outside websites, and so we're gonna kind of leave the realm of television a little bit this week, and we're gonna focus on those. And I think it's really a great way that we can do that in a online kind of class like this, where we're not meeting in person, as I can kind of bounce you guys off to online exhibits and primary source material, and that's a real advantage we have in this kind of delivery. So I hope that you guys enjoy that museum exhibits, and just pick one or the other, and then you'll become a little bit of an expert here in either race or gender in this time period. And then next week we'll bring things back to with gender. We'll either bring it back to I Love Lucy or The Honeymooners. And with race, we'll either bring it back to Amos and Andy we'll study next week, as well as race can also be brought back to I Love Lucy, since Desi Arnaz is Cuban, and Lucy and Desi have an interracial marriage, which is very unusual at that time period. So again, I hope you enjoyed these exhibits, and thank you for your time.